Okay, so now we're flipping the joints over. So how I did this is in the Symmetry icon on the top right corner, on the top bar. So you click that. Well, first you click your item you would like to copy. So you use Gizmo, you click on it, then you copy it in the Digimon evolution chart thingy. You press those two squares beside each other, and then you click on the copied item with Gizmo, and then you go into the Symmetry section, and if you scroll down, eventually you'll find something that says flip object, and you click that, and then you're good to go. You have the object flipped, get Gizmo again, and then move it to the position that you want it in. Okay, so just trying to get it to fit. Since this is just on an iPad using the controls, it does take a little bit of time to actually get everything snug. And then had to full on make the other file transparent to try to properly see everything. And then flipping the object, trying to get it perfect, trying to adjust everything. Here I'm going back and forth, trying to get it lined up with the other leg, just trying to compare at any given time that I am able to. Haha, okay, that's enough. Just kind of that was just like a little joke from yesterday. If anyone remembers that for some reason, I thought it would be funny. I don't know. Okay, so now we're going back to the torso joint. We're going to be making sure everything is even, make sure everything is as smooth as we want it, and making sure everything is ideal for the kind of jointing that we are going to be doing. So we are taking the smooth tool and we are smoothening these out. And then of course, this is really the hard part, since because these are interconnecting pieces, you can see that it's not really going the way that I want it, because as soon as you get it to that crisp line on the side, you realize that you messed up the silhouette of the piece when you're looking at it from a different angle, which is really why it is so important to constantly check on what you are doing, making sure you're not messing up anything. Like, I believe I take off the Symmetry tool like right away, because I realize that my model at one point somehow got off of the ideal plane for the Symmetry tool, and I now am messing up the opposite side of the torso by using the smooth tool on the other side. So you can see, even though I've been using the Symmetry tool, somehow it's not even. You can see the sensor on both sides, it's not the way that it should be. So I eventually do abandon it, and that sometimes it's just an issue that you have to deal with. I don't know how it happens, because I didn't really move the torso joints at all, but I don't know. So now we are building up on the um crotch joint. I don't know what else to call it. So we're building it up and then we are going to smooth it out. We are using the brush to build up the area. We are trying to get it Kendall smooth, and then I realized that I built it up too much. And we're going to be kind of moving it back in there. You can, of course, make all of these areas significantly more detailed. I don't prefer that for my dolls. I like mine to be like a doll. Well, like a kid's doll, basically. Because I sew most of my clothes, and when it comes to pants, it makes it so much harder to sew for them when anything is there. So I just kind of keep them completely flat, completely smooth. Here we are renaming all my files once again, since it is very important to go back and make sure everything is properly labeled. You don't want to accidentally delete something because you have 10 files all named sphere and you don't know which sphere is the one that you want to delete, right? In this case, you can see that because I copied the jointing on my right of the doll, I had to then rename everything to the other side, so my left, because it doesn't automatically change the name, it doesn't give you any indication that it is changed, it's just the same word. So you do have to check what jointing you're on, and then you have to then manually change the name of that file. And you can see I'm just doing very simple names like left leg, left bottom, because I felt like it was just gonna be too long if I had to specify it. Oh, it's the bottom of the leg, left knee, stuff like that. And then once again, after working on something else, taking that break, and then going back to the torso, you kind of realize how wonky it is. So even while you're working on something, if you take a break from an area and go back to work on something, you will notice mistakes that weren't present to your eyes at that point. And here's kind of when I realize that, oh, it somehow ended up being super wonky again. But we're just gonna leave it for now. So we go back to the bust and we're kind of adjusting it since it wasn't ideal, it was kind of off center a little bit. Oh, maybe this is how I ended up messing up my symmetry. Just small adjustments like this. I'm not sure. I feel like it would be so much easier if they did have some kind of vertical line that showed where the center of the symmetry tool is, or if we could just do the center of an object instead. Unless these are already present in the app and I'm just not aware of them. Because once, like, I'm not a pro at this. I've only had this for less than a week, but I've learned, of course, all of these techniques that I have that I'm showing you, without any tutorials or anything, but just like getting in there. One of my friends showed me how to do like voxel merging and how to hollow out items, and as soon as I got that, I latched onto the app and I learned very quickly how to use it. Since before that, I was pretty lost on how to do actual advanced sculpting at all. I really only knew how to use like the brush tool and the move tool and the crease, and that's about it. But yeah, after learning those two things, it's very easy to then apply all of those to the rest of your sculptures, especially making things hollow and like splitting an item, or how to actually use primitives in a way that will be helpful when sculpting dolls. So just furthering the editing of every piece, and then of course once you edit it, from this angle, you move the body and you realize how much you messed up the body. So you have to redo everything, you have to constantly shift around everything, constantly move around the object. It's really good to always just take that step back and make sure everything is even. I bet you can hear my sister laughing. She laughs very loud. I'm not even on the same floor as her right now. So at this point, I do have symmetry turned off. So once I fixed it on that one side, I do go back and fix it on the other side. And then we're taking the smooth tool and we're just smoothing it out. So we're just gonna keep doing this until we get it to where we want it. So just continuing that editing process, making sure everything is perfect. There's not a lot to say at this point since it is just trying to fix everything. But I do assume that if you are sculpting in real time and you are sculpting at the same pace that I am sculpting at, then you would also realize that you probably made similar mistakes. I guess it would really depend on what the proportions of your sculpt are. I guess I should really try to make some other body types for further sculpting. I can always make different videos on body types if anyone wants. I probably won't do one for AMAB bodies. Like, I can try, especially since I do have an OC where there is not currently a body on the market that fits for his character. But I'm also scared, like, I really don't know how to draw or sculpt AMAB people very well. So at this point, I am just doing AFAB bodies. We're using the move tool to try to get these hips where I want them. There is a gap between the hips and the thighs, but those are hip dips, which I do actually like on real bodies, so I am keeping them on this body to try to replicate that. I know hip dips aren't for everyone, it really depends on your own personal preferences, but I do enjoy them. I like the aesthetic of them, so I'm going to be keeping them on my doll. Then once again making changes because I came back to this part on the sculpt and I realized that I needed to make further changes after not looking at it for a while. Okay, so now I'm going to put the thigh joints as invisible so you can better. Oh, look at that. See, that's why we check on things. I don't know how this happened, but it did. So I'm going to get the split tool. Oh no, I'm going to get the trim tool. Oh, they are just so similar yet so different at the same time. We are going to get the lasso, and we are just going to kind of draw around these spaces and get rid of them. We don't need them, they're completely useless. And then we're going to get the smooth tool and we're going to be smoothing this out since there are some bumps and just kind of general messiness in these joints. You can see how wonky they are, and then adjusting, making sure to look at the joint from various angles to make sure that it looks the way we want it. I find that digitally and traditionally for sculpting on the hip joints on a torso are just extremely hard. With or without the symmetry, it's really hard to get them to work perfectly for the aesthetic. So we're trying to get everything ideally where we want it in the finished product because right away we are going to be doing the jointing in the torso. And the jointing in the torso, I'm gonna do about like 90% of the work for that jointing right now, and then in a future video we will finish off the remaining 10%. Of course, you could finish off the remaining 10% on your own, since it is just as simple as getting it to be easier to string when it would be printed or casted. So we're doing the exact same jointing as we have done previously. We're getting it to the size we want it. We just picked a cylinder from the primitive section, and then we're just getting it to that perfect width, getting it where we want it. So we are going to be doing basically just 2 cylinders, one through one leg and then another through the other leg. And then we're just going to crisscross them, and then we are going to make them transparent and select them as well as with the torso, and we are going to voxel merge them. And just that alone is basically 80% of the way. I'm going to do about like a little bit more to make it more even and pretty and whatnot. And then of course, like, just in your own time, you could just get it to where you want it. If you would like to do any special like divots or jointing, sort of like how Dolce or Lutz has on their dolls, then right now would be a great time to do that. I believe the easiest way to do it would just be with the sphere tool. So you would just get the sphere, you would put a little nub on the thigh joint somewhere on the leg, and then on the torso joint on the hip joint area, you would then just get that same sphere and put them in the positions you want them, and then you would do the same voxel merging to create a divot into the torso. And then you would have that kind of interlocking joint seen in those 2 dolls. I think Fairyland also has that jointing, but I don't own a Fairyland body, so I can't say. And then for the heads, I've only had 2 Fairyland heads and I don't own them anymore. I had a very, very, very early gen one from like forever ago. And then I had one of the event heads, but that's it, so I can't really speak on that. But if anyone else does have a doll with like little nubbings in their jointing, please do tell. I'd love to hear that. So now we are just using the brush tool, and we're putting like a little bit more softness to her sculpt. Just kind of smoothing it out now. I do want a bit more of that kind of like soft fat around her, underneath her belly button, and then near her stomach, well, like under her ribs. If you would like to do very pronounced ribs, right now would be the time to start doing that as well. You could bring out the bust joints and start editing that onto both of them. So just trying to get the overall silhouette of the body fat. Is body fat the right word? I don't know. For the softness on this body, on what would be the flesh. Now we're going to be using the crease tool to just kind of get a belly button, and we are going to be doing one of the like the vertical ones. For soft stomachs, I do prefer to do a more horizontal belly button. I hope everyone is aware of what I'm talking about and this doesn't just sound weird. But we're going to be doing a vertical one. It kind of gives a more athletic look to a body, I find. And Once again, making sure everything is smoothed out. You can see on the inside what I mean by you can fix this remaining 10% of the jointing on your own, and that's because it kind of looks like this. And I will do further editing to it, since I find that the torso joints for the hips and the bust are both like very hard parts of the BJD body to string. So that's why we're going to be editing it further later. But for now, we're just going to be getting it to at least an aesthetic niceness or cleanness. So once we have it basically where we want it, it's not perfect, but we're going to have a whole video later just doing minor details and editing. So we're just trying to get the base done because you guys can do the editing on your own. You don't need to watch me like do any special modifications or anything. So I actually lost the footage for this, but I'm going to give a step-by-step process on how I got the different busts. So just like earlier when we did those two little squares on top of each other to copy an item, I did that for the bust. So I did that, I copied an item, and then I got the smooth tool and just went to town, just smoothing out the breasts until it kind of got significantly flatter. I will be going back and editing this when I do those minor details, but for now we're just trying to get the silhouettes that we want. And that's the same for this one. We're going to be making a large bust as well, but we're just going to be getting it to about the size that we want it. We will be trying to get it to less fake of an appearance. Like, they're still going to look very cartoonish and not very natural, but we don't want them to look like torpedoes. And you'll see what I mean in a second when we start getting to that. So I basically just got the medium bust and then put the inflate tool on, and I just used that. Straight up just inflated each of them. So here we go, just trying to do that same thing where, oh, yep, oh, beautiful. Undo button. Oh, it blesses me every day. So, oh no, they're uneven. They look like torpedoes. But that's where the smooth tool comes in. Yeah, let's smooth these together, make them look more natural. Still torpedoes. Still just giant torpedoes. But we are kind of aiming to make it look like it's still, like the twins are still in a bra. I would love to do a more natural bust, and I feel like I was for the personal project I was working on shown at the beginning of part 1. But that's just not for this body. This body, we're just aiming for more like, this is a character that actually wears bras. This is a character that if you were to put clothes on, it would look like she's wearing bras. Which is always nice, I guess, if you have dolls that are more aimed to be in casual wear. And that's also why I decided not to, well, I decided at this point that I was just never going to try to put nipples on them again, because it's just easier to hide in clothing, and this way everything is just kind of sized and smoothed out to a way that it's made purposefully to interact in a more natural sense under clothing, so that it looks like there aren't, eyeballs looking at you from under those clothes, or like, hey, this doll that's made of resin does not have the same physics of a human body. So we have to take that into consideration. And now we are going to get back to the topic, since I did go on a little tangent. We're going to be doing the jointing on the thighs, finally. So we're just using the exact same process that we do for all the other ones, but this time we're going to use rectangles because we want this jointing to go all the way from the middle of the thigh to the front, because this is where the elastic would go through at the back. That's how the elastic would be if the doll was standing up. And then, of course, the slits on the front are where the elastic would go if the doll was sitting down. So we're just adjusting it where we want it. After this process, if you wanted to do anything fun for the thigh joints, like, I don't know, end them with a heart, or end them with a circle, or make them kind of swirly or anything, you would do that after this. So this is just to get the basic shape, a more normal jointing that you would see on a BJD. So we're just making sure that everything is where we want it. And the way that the squares or boxes turned into the mesh, if you are watching the labels, is this is what happens when you use the mirror tool that we already talked about on the last video. So we're just using that mirror tool. Ooh, family. And then we are just voxel merging them in here. That's how you get this gap. Once again, we are smoothing these areas. And then, yep, at this, we notice our mistake. Yep. So we're just going to continue smoothing these out so they look decent before we change this. Family continuing to laugh in the background. But this is where I realized that I made a mistake. I made a big mistake. So we are going to be doing basically the exact same thing we did to get the thigh joints, but we're going to be using a like a flattened oval, and we're just going to be shoving that down there. We are trying to get a rounded shape to connect the tunneling for the leg joints that we did earlier, and connecting them to the thigh joints that we just finished. So I am separating these meshes, and then we are just going to be voxel merging them together. So we can see this process for both of the legs, getting them both together. And then we are going to be checking on them. I know I basically abandoned this account. I used to make a couple of videos a couple of years ago, and then completely left it empty. But I guess I might start uploading stuff. I don't know. I do still get lots of doll mail, so that's something I could do. I do have old doll mail from a couple of years ago that I do have listed as private. But I don't know. I guess I can start uploading stuff like that. Not even just kind of as something to do. My school's on strike. There's not really anything for me to do. I'm so bored. And then I also sew. I do have a website that I do sell BJD clothes and BJD wigs and BJD eyes. So I guess I should also probably do videos of the creation processes of those, or at least time lapses of some sorts. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe even collection videos. I do have quite a bit of I have a decent amount of dolls. A lot of them aren't done. A lot of them are very, very early in the project phase. So, that's really what's kept me off of doing any kind of collection video like that beforehand. But I guess I can do a collection tour and just show off like my large collection of half done dolls. And then my like, I guess I have like 3, 4, 5, 6 maybe dolls that are done. I feel like it's not very fun because I don't really collect large amounts of outfits for my dolls. I really only have 1 or 2 outfits for each doll. So it's kind of boring. But hey, let's make some content while I'm sitting at home doing nothing. You know? Oh, so now we're gonna finally take this little tiny spear we got forever ago for the ankle joints and we're gonna actually make a foot. Okay, so this is attempt number 1 at making a foot. There's a reason I'm saying that, first of all. Okay, so we're getting our sphere and we're going to get a second sphere. So the first sphere is going to be our ankle joint, and the second one we are going to manipulate into the base of our foot. So these will be the actual foot part of it. We're going to be making it into a flattened oval. And I'm not going to be using like actual reference for this. I'm just going to be looking at my own foot, which is very disappointing. I don't have pretty feet. I get like mine just look like little gremlin feet, just little troll feet. So if that's how our foot turns out, that's just how our foot turns out. We're gonna keep it that way. And it's okay. We don't need all our dolls to have pretty feet. Let's have some dolls with ugly feet, I guess. But we're still gonna try to make it look like a foot. Like an actual foot. Like we actually know how to... Oh!